My best friend introduced me to her childhood sweetheart. Later, when her marriage fell apart, she started having a suspicious relationship with my husband. When I expressed my displeasure, my husband would say, "We grew up together. What's wrong with a little concern?" And my best friend would retort, "If there was really something going on, how would it concern you?" It wasn't until I caught them in bed that they sneered, "We've been childhood sweethearts since we were kids. You're the third wheel." I was thrown out of my home, and my daughter was driven to her death by them. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 5 years ago. A frantic knocking at the door in the middle of the night shattered my sleep. It was my best friend, Tiffany, along with my husband, Daniel. "Leo has a fever. What should we do?" she pleaded, her eyes welling up with tears, seeking my husband's help. Watching them rush out together, I was stunned, realizing I wasn't dead. Panicked, I ran into my daughter's room, gazing at her small, sleeping face. My eyes were dry, yet a torrent of emotions surged within me. Checking the date, I realized I had returned 5 years into the past. My daughter hadn't yet endured the cruel torment that led her to seek death. I hadn't yet fallen into severe depression. I gently stroked my daughter's soft face. Everything was still in time. I had to protect her with all my might. Daniel only came home when it was bright. Seeing the empty dining table, he asked, "Where's breakfast?" That entitled look on his face made me want to shove food down his throat, but now wasn't the time to reveal my true intentions. I had to be patient. "There are frozen dumplings. Cook them yourself," I replied casually. He flared up, "You do nothing all day at home and you can't even cook breakfast? I was with Tiffany all night. How was I supposed to know you'd be back for breakfast?" He glared, "What do you mean? Leo is sick and their family has no men. If I don't help, who will? Are you that petty?" Seeing his self-righteous demeanor, I found it ridiculous. I hadn't said anything, yet he was quick to blame me. It was the same in my previous life. His relationship with Tiffany had long crossed the line of friendship, but every time I brought it up, he'd scold me, calling me cruel and petty. Even when I caught them in bed, they loudly proclaimed, "We've been childhood sweethearts since we were kids. You're the third wheel." That despicable couple always had their own twisted logic. If it were just emotional betrayal, I'd consider it a dog bite. But they had driven my daughter to her death. This blood debt must be repaid with blood. I clenched my fists, suppressing my hatred and feigned surprise. "Why would you think that of me? You two have known each other for years. If there was anything, it would have happened long ago. You were even the one who introduced me to her. How could I suspect anything?" My husband's face darkened, his eyes flickering. My words had stung his pathetic self-esteem. I quite enjoyed seeing him furious but unable to express it. Just then my daughter woke up and ran to me. "Mommy, Daddy, don't fight anymore." I stroked her head. "Mommy and Daddy aren't fighting, darling. We're just talking a little loudly." Daniel instructed me, "Leo is sick and needs to be hospitalized. Make some chicken soup and bring it over this afternoon." With that, he grabbed his bag and left for work. On the way to school, I cautiously asked my daughter, "If Mommy and Daddy separate, would you want to stay with Mommy?" Her eyes briefly saddened, but she nodded. "I'll always be with Mommy." Then she added, "Mommy, does Daddy really like Aunt Tiffany?" I was taken aback by her question. "Why would you think that?" "Daddy treats Aunt Tiffany better than he treats us." Her voice was filled with grievance, tightening my heart. Adults often think children don't understand anything, but they are incredibly sensitive. After buying groceries, I started sending out job applications. In my previous life, I was a housewife with no income. When I divorced, I lost custody of my daughter, which led to her tragedy. This life, I won't let my daughter and me be separated. When I brought the chicken soup to the hospital, my best friend's son was sulking. Seeing me, he snapped, "Why are you only just getting here? Were you trying to starve me to death?" Looking at that brat, I truly wanted to tear him to pieces if it weren't against the law. In my previous life, after Daniel and I divorced, Tiffany and her son moved into my house, becoming the new owners. Those two tormented and abused my daughter constantly. That little beast even laid hands on her. Unable to bear the humiliation, my daughter chose to end her life. At that time, I was working 3 jobs a day, hoping to regain custody soon. My oversight prevented me from noticing my daughter's distress until I saw her cold body in court. My world completely crumbled. Unable to accept the truth, I fell into severe depression. As I prepared to follow my daughter, I accidentally discovered her diary. Only then did I realize what she had endured. I grabbed a knife, determined to fight them to the death, wanting them to be buried with my daughter. Unfortunately, I only injured them before being overpowered and killed. Leo, why are you being so rude? Olivia, he's just a sick child, easily irritable. Don't take it to heart too much. My best friend's words pulled me back to reality. I smiled and said, I adore Leo. Why would I be angry? You're hungry, aren't you? I brought chicken soup. That little beast devoured it like a starving man, burying his head in the bowl. My best friend tasted a spoonful. It smells so good. You still make the best chicken soup, so rich and flavorful. I subtly curved my lips. If you like it, I'll cook it for you again tonight. This is frozen chicken. I scoured the whole market to find it. Plus, with all those additives, even factory-farmed chickens still swim around happily. How could it not be sweet? Later that evening, the little beast whined, I want pizza and fries. No, you're sick. You can't eat those things. Drink the chicken soup. I firmly refused. My chicken soup, full of my love, must be consumed by them. No, I want pizza. If you don't let me eat it, I'll tell Daddy Daniel to hit you. The brat started throwing a tantrum. He already called Daniel Daddy? Truly unpredictable. My best friend quickly scolded, Leo, he just wants a father too much. It's all my fault. She then faked sadness, wiping away a tear. As someone who had been her best friend for 2 lifetimes, I had to admit she was the quintessential green tea bitch, skilled at feigning weakness and helplessness to charm men. What did the doctor say? Does he still need to stay tonight? Do you need me to bring anything? Looking at her worried expression, I gave a cold smile internally. That little beast had leukemia. In this life, he would slowly endure the pain. I took the keys and went to fetch hospital essentials for her and her son. As soon as I opened the door, a strong, foul smell made me wrinkle my nose. I'm very sensitive to smells. After a few breaths, my head felt dizzy. Looking around the room, I chuckled. Those two had rented a room right below mine to hide from debt. From big things like her son's illness to small things like paying utility bills, she was utterly useless, like an unweaned baby. Everything had to go through Daniel. Even menstrual cramps required his comfort and a warm drink. Daniel was paying for this rent too. She probably rented it in a hurry and didn't notice. The furniture was all new. It all looked nice, but it was made of formaldehyde-laden materials. No wonder the brat got leukemia after only living there for half a year. Karma indeed. I went into the bedroom to check for cameras, then placed a voice recorder in a hidden corner. While looking for things, I found photos on the bedside table. One was a picture of her, her son, and Daniel, looking like a genuinely happy family. The other was an old photo of a young man and woman in school uniforms, Daniel and Tiffany during their college days. Tiffany and I were very close college roommates. Later, she set me up with Daniel. They were childhood sweethearts, neighbors for decades. At the time, Tiffany laughed and said they were just innocent friends. I believed her. But there's no such thing as pure friendship between a man and a woman. It's just one side not being interested in the other. Daniel wasn't bad, but his family was poor and his mother was pushy. Tiffany, ambitious and wanting to marry up, looked down on him. In college, she immediately found a rich boyfriend and pushed Daniel, the lovesick admirer, onto me. That's why every time I brought up the past, Daniel would get angry. He was proud and well aware that Tiffany had once scorned him. After graduation, we went our separate ways. For my family, I gave up my career to focus on being a wife and mother. Daniel's career flourished. Meanwhile, Tiffany's rich husband got involved with drugs, went bankrupt, accumulated massive debts, and then disappeared. When creditors were chasing her, Daniel appeared like a knight protecting her. Things were different now. Tiffany clung tightly to the big fish she had once disdained. When I left the house, I made sure to tightly close all windows and doors. Good things should be saved for them. That evening, as soon as Daniel arrived home, he quickly showered, changed, grabbed the chicken soup I'd made, and prepared to leave. I casually asked, "Aren't you eating dinner?" He replied, "Tiffany is having a tough time alone at the hospital. I'm going to take over tonight. I won't be back." With that, he hastily left. My daughter had been sick since she was little, and I'd handled everything alone. He always used being busy with work as an excuse not to care. Yet now he was utterly devoted to another man's child. Did he want to be a stepfather so badly? How despicable. Smelling the lingering perfume in the air, my heart turned cold. He wasn't going to care for the sick. He was going to flaunt his peacock tail. It was good that he left. I didn't have to share a bed with that filthy man. It was truly nauseating. For a whole week, Daniel kept rushing between work and the hospital. Meanwhile, I finally found a job as a professional organizer. Luckily, I often watched cleaning videos, so I was excellent at housework. The time was approaching for that little beast to be diagnosed with leukemia. I needed to prepare. Today, Tiffany and Daniel entered the house together. As soon as Tiffany saw me, she collapsed to her knees, her face pleading. Olivia, please save Leo. Surprised, I quickly helped her up. Take it easy, stand up. What's wrong with Leo? The doctor said Leo has leukemia and needs a bone marrow transplant, she sobbed. But the surgery costs too much. Olivia, you're my best friend. Please lend me the money. Leo is my life. I can't live without him. Please, Olivia, when Leo recovers, I'll work tirelessly to repay you. Tiffany's tears and snot ran down her face. Anyone who didn't know would surely think she was a helpless mother. I glanced back and forth between Tiffany and Daniel, feigning a troubled expression. But, before I could finish, Daniel coldly snapped, "How can you be so cruel? Leo is just a child. How can you bear not to save him? I never thought you'd be such a viper. I've misjudged you all these years." He hadn't even finished his sentence before he quickly helped Tiffany to her feet. The person who had just been crying and wanting to kneel now stood up remarkably fast. Watching the two actors in front of me, I smiled coldly to myself. Since I quit my job to take care of the family, I had no income. All expenses were covered by Daniel. He held all the money. Did Daniel truly not know I had no money when Tiffany asked to borrow from me? He simply wanted to seize the opportunity to blame me and openly use money for Tiffany and her son. Daniel gently comforted Tiffany. About an hour later, the bathroom door burst open and a figure rushed out. Borrowing money? Who's borrowing money? My mother-in-law, still pulling up her pants, hadn't even zipped them up. The two lovebirds immediately froze. Daniel stammered, "Mom, why are you here?" "Can an old woman visit?" My mother-in-law glared. "Good thing I came. How dare you lend money to others? Is money meant to be squandered? What a spendthrift." Turning to Tiffany, she said scornfully, "Why are you running to other people's houses crying? Will your crying make your husband's family prosper? What bad luck." Hearing my mother-in-law curse without holding back, I almost burst out laughing and had to bow my head to hide my emotions. My mother-in-law was famously stingy but fair to everyone. "Mom, listen to me," Daniel said in a low voice. "Leo is seriously ill and needs money to save his life. What does his illness have to do with you? He's not your son. His own father isn't worried, so why are you sticking your neck out? I raised you with such difficulty from childhood. Did anyone help me? Now that our family is a little better off, I haven't even enjoyed the good life, and you want to give money to others? Never. If you dare to lend money, I'll hang myself right here." My mother-in-law pointed at her son's face and scolded him harshly. Daniel's face turned pale, but he didn't dare to argue. "What are you still standing there for? Don't you have a home to go back to? Shameless." Tiffany, utterly humiliated by the scolding, slunk away. Daniel, seething but not daring to vent his anger on his mother, turned his wrath on me. "Why didn't you tell me Mom was coming?" Annoyed, I glared at him. "Mom said she wasn't feeling well, so I told her to come so I could take her for a checkup. She only arrived this afternoon. You're never home all day. Who was I supposed to tell? Is it wrong for me to invite my mother? Or is my filial piety wrong?" My voice was not soft, intentionally letting my mother-in-law hear every word clearly. My mother-in-law's anger, which had just subsided, flared up again. "Because of that vixen Tiffany, you dare to disrespect your own mother. I think you've forgotten how her family treated us. What does that have to do with Tiffany that you keep bringing it up? I think you think I'm old and want to piss me off to death, right? If she were truly a good person, why would she let her family bully us? Do you forget how scornfully they mocked our family when she married that rich husband? Now they're getting their karma. Heaven has eyes. Tiffany is old news now, worthless, and comes with another child. If she dares to seduce you, I'll tear her face off." The conflicts between my mother-in-law and Tiffany's family in my previous life were only something I learned about after discovering Daniel's infidelity. In the past, my mother-in-law raised her son alone and was often looked down upon by neighbors. In high school, when Daniel wrote a love letter to Tiffany, her mother found out and scolded Daniel in front of the neighbors. Such a young age, and already trying to trick someone's daughter into dating. Truly a toad wanting to eat swan meat, doesn't he look in the mirror to see what he is? She even dragged Daniel's mother into it, saying, "With a son like this, her mother can't be decent either." Later, when Tiffany married her rich husband, she mocked Daniel even more, calling him just a hired hand. Bringing up the past indeed touched Daniel's sore spot. His face darkened. "Mom, don't say any more, I know. If you know, then you absolutely cannot lend her money." Daniel reluctantly nodded. My mother-in-law thought for a moment, still uneasy. "No, you're too soft-hearted. Give me all of yours and your wife's money to keep." "Mom, I'm married now. Money is shared property. Olivia wouldn't agree either. You're not an outsider, Mom. It's just that I'll feel more at ease if you hold the money." I cut Daniel off. Was he trying to use me as a shield? Not a chance. For all these years, Daniel had been promoted and received raises, but I didn't even know how much he earned. In my previous life, he was good at hiding assets. Even though he was the one at fault in the marriage, I still didn't win custody, and I was left with nothing. Hearing me say that, my mother-in-law's face lit up with satisfaction. Daniel kept winking at me, but I pretended not to see. Under his mother's pressure, Daniel reluctantly pulled out all their savings. With me supervising, he couldn't hide any payment apps. My mother-in-law even searched his clothes, almost checking his underwear. For the next few days, Daniel flattered me and continued to persuade me. Time passed, and Tiffany grew so anxious that she called me dozens of times each day, asking if I had made up my mind. When I felt the timing was right, during her next call, I deliberately ran out to the balcony to answer the phone in front of my mother-in-law, intentionally mentioning phrases like borrowing $500,000 and lending money in our conversation. The next day, I went to the agreed-upon location. Someone secretly followed me. I subtly curved my lips. A good show was about to begin. When I arrived, Daniel wasn't there. Only a man in a neat suit, an employee of a credit company, was present. Tiffany truly was anxious, afraid I would change my mind. I flipped through the contract he handed me. It was a small company with sky-high interest rates. Seeing my hesitation, Tiffany urged, "Olivia, this company is very reputable. I've read the contract thoroughly, it's fine. Sign quickly." The man also said that once signed, the company would disperse the funds today. I took the pen, feigning preparation to sign, when suddenly my mother-in-law burst in, yelling, "Olivia, what are you doing? Are you trying to ruin this family? I'll beat you to death." Everyone was startled. Without waiting for anyone to react, she snatched the contract from my hand, glanced at it, and tore it to shreds. The man, startled, tried to intervene. "Ma'am, what are you doing?" My mother-in-law forcefully threw the papers at his face. "Get lost, I feel like it." Then she lunged at me furiously. "How dare you secretly borrow money? Do you want to destroy this family? I'll beat you to death." Seeing the impending slap, I quickly dodged and said resentfully, "Mom, I didn't want to. Daniel told me to do it." My mother-in-law stopped, turning to glare at Tiffany. Tiffany, from the moment my mother-in-law appeared, knew her plan to borrow money had failed. Thinking of her son waiting for money to save his life, her face turned pale. My mother-in-law cursed directly at her face. "You hussy! I warned you not to seduce my son, but you're still so ignorant. How dare you instigate my daughter-in-law to borrow money? If I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't remember it." As she scolded, she slapped Tiffany's face repeatedly while Tiffany was still stunned. My mother-in-law then pushed her hard onto the sofa and continued to relentlessly beat her. Tiffany, despite her anger, dared not retaliate because it was Daniel's mother. She could only dodge. The credit company employee, seeing this, quickly fled. The store employees, seeing an aggressive old woman doing the hitting, didn't dare to intervene, only offering verbal advice. I pretended to be terrified, shaking my head repeatedly. When my mother-in-law grew tired of hitting, she switched to pulling Tiffany's hair and pinching her soft flesh. Hearing Tiffany's screams, I could imagine the pain. Finally, the police arrived and separated the two, taking everyone to the station. When questioned, I recounted the entire story of them pressuring me to borrow money, emphasizing their childhood sweetheart relationship. The police looked at me with a strange expression. Daniel rushed over, seeing Tiffany with swollen eyes and bruised face. He almost hugged her to comfort her. Even without Tiffany pressing charges, the police still warned my mother-in-law. Before leaving, the police also advised me that helping others is good, but one should not borrow money to help and should consider their own capabilities. From that day on, Daniel visited Tiffany and her son at the hospital every day. Although my mother-in-law was annoyed, after the police's warning, she let it be. Daniel told me that because they couldn't afford the surgery in time, the bone marrow had been transferred to someone else. Daniel angrily blamed me, saying I was the reason Leo couldn't be saved. On the surface, I showed regret, but inside I was ecstatic, like fireworks exploding. I suggested, "I heard that umbilical cord blood from a relative can be used for transplants. Why don't you tell Tiffany to find her ex-husband and have another child? Are you just going to abandon her son?" Daniel didn't deny it, just remained silent in thought. The next day, I overheard their conversation. Tiffany cried out, "You want me to have another child with that man? I'd rather die." Daniel sighed, "But Leo's illness." Tiffany whined, "Daniel, let's have a child not just to save Leo. I know you've always wanted a son. Even without a name or status, I'd be willing." Tiffany started sobbing. "Before, because my family objected, I wronged you. In my heart, there has only ever been you. I know this is wronging Olivia, but I can't control my feelings. Let me go to hell to atone." Daniel soothed her. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Our childhood sweetheart love was only interrupted by Olivia's arbitrary interference. No one else can be blamed. If you've thought it through, I will definitely help you. Don't worry. Once you're pregnant, I'll divorce her and give you a proper status. I'll handle things with my mother myself. After that, the two exchanged declarations of love and worked together to conceive a child, with harmonious, intimate sounds. I only wish Tiffany would pay the price soon so I could quickly escape this disgusting marriage. While they were busy producing, I wasn't idle. I monitored Tiffany's social media accounts. She had a secondary account where she blogged about her emotional journey, documenting the sweet moments of reuniting with Daniel, telling a unique and captivating story of first loves rekindled in middle age, attracting considerable attention. In my previous life, after I was kicked out, they stopped hiding and publicly appeared together, their sweet interactions causing their fanbase to skyrocket. Currently, Tiffany was still subtly posting, but she already had tens of thousands of followers. Her latest post read, "Wanting a child, the crystallization of our love so our wonderful genes can be passed on. Pray for good luck." Previous posts were all about Daniel's touching gestures for her. Comments were full of, "So sweet." I want to go back to my first love too. Only by leaving the wrong person do you know who the right one is. Hope your ex-husbands and ex-wives are as good as dead and don't disturb your happiness. I used a secondary account to comment under her latest post. Picked up a used middle-aged man. What good genes are you praising? Probably a pot-bellied, bald man earning 3,000 yuan, right? He used to have a wife who gave birth, so now he thinks everyone is obsessed with bald men. So many people inflate the price of pork, they pick up a pile of dung and call it gold. I also went back to her old posts, mercilessly criticizing her. The comments, which were originally full of admiration, now included my attacking remarks. Tiffany quickly replied, at first gently explaining, but as I continued to provoke her, she grew furious. She began to boast about Daniel's height, education, appearance, and income. I challenged her. I don't believe it. If you have the guts, show me proof. The fake accounts I hired also chimed in, pressuring Tiffany to prove it. Unable to endure the provocation, she posted a screenshot of Daniel's payslip, hiding his name but revealing a salary of 100,000 yuan. Many comments expressed awe and admiration. I smirked coldly. She took the bait. I responded with a fake payslip image. These were plentiful online. If it wasn't enough, I'd Photoshop more. Continuing the back and forth, I bet that if she dared to show an unredacted payslip proving it was my husband's, I would publicly apologize. Tiffany immediately sent me an unredacted payslip, along with Daniel's ID photo, through the screen. I chuckled silently. How foolish. To avoid suspicion, I pretended to follow through on my promise, posting a public apology under her post, unintentionally reinforcing her words. The comments below were filled with admiration, with many envious of her luck. I'm sure Tiffany was so happy at that moment, her tail must have been wagging to the sky. 2 months later, Tiffany publicly announced she was pregnant. Soon after, Daniel proposed divorce to me. I didn't bother to pretend anymore. I calmly said, "Divorce is fine. How will we divide the house, car, and savings?" Before Daniel could open his mouth, my mother-in-law jumped up. "What? All these years you couldn't give birth to a son, you ate my son's food, spent my son's money, and now you dare to demand property division? Are you dreaming?" I sneered. "Your son was so impatient, he went to Tiffany to have a child." Daniel looked at me, surprised. "You know, so you're unhappy with the property division because I'm at fault, but I won't divorce." Daniel frowned, clearly not expecting things to turn out this way. That very day, I moved out with my daughter. This time, when discussing the divorce, I brought a lawyer. Daniel immediately threatened me with custody of our child. "Just give up the assets and I'll grant you custody." I coldly replied, "I must have a share of the assets and I must fight for custody. Do you think you can win against me?" I curved my lips and sent Daniel a long audio recording on my phone. It contained snippets of his affair with Tiffany and his discussion with his mother about Tiffany's pregnancy, wanting to divorce me and leave me with nothing. After only a few seconds, Daniel's face turned pale. He gritted his teeth. "Olivia, I never thought you'd be so vicious." I calmly replied, "It's a pot calling the kettle black." Daniel took several deep breaths, then asked, "How do you want to divide it? The car for me, and I'll take the house and savings. Custody of our daughter is also mine." Daniel slammed his hand on the table, furious. "All the money in this house was earned by me. What right do you have to demand a share?" I calmly watched his outburst. When he calmed down, I presented another piece of evidence, the payslip Tiffany had sent me. Daniel's company had strict rules against disclosing salaries. If I sent this document to his company, Daniel would surely lose his job. Seeing the veins throbbing on his forehead, I smiled. Divorce is cert. Either we divide the assets my way, or I send this document to your boss. I entrusted all property division matters to my lawyer. In the end, I got the house and 70% of the savings. Speaking of savings, I had to thank my mother-in-law for once insisting on managing our money, which made me fully aware of the household finances. I didn't intend to live in that house anymore, as Tiffany lived right downstairs. After the divorce, I wanted nothing to do with them. I got the money, but I wasn't done with Daniel's career. Tiffany was too impatient. The morning I received my divorce papers, she flaunted her marriage certificate online that evening, accompanied by a long, emotional post. The content recounted a childhood love, misunderstood, leading them to marry others. When their marriages ended, they found their way back to each other. She also wrote about how Daniel had not abandoned her when her son was sick, spending money and effort to care for him. Now they were married, and she was pregnant with a baby that was not only the crystallization of their love, but also the hope for her son's recovery. There's no denying Tiffany wrote beautifully. Those unfamiliar with the situation shed tears of emotion. Surprisingly, her post even trended, with many people congratulating them and calling for donations. I sneered. Let's see how long they can be happy. When netizens sobered up, I would deliver a major blow. But before I could act, I unexpectedly received a message from Tiffany's ex-husband. He asked me, did they really get married? I was stunned. In my previous life, after her ex-husband fled, he never reappeared. Now he was back because he saw the news online, or did he still have feelings for Tiffany? After chatting, I was truly shocked. Tiffany had never divorced her ex-husband. Thinking back, her ex-husband's disappearance was too sudden. Perhaps they hadn't had time to finalize the divorce procedures. If the court ruled for divorce, the period of separation might not have been long enough. That meant she was committing bigamy. Sensing that something big was about to happen, I immediately found someone to buy a new house, prepared the documents, and took my daughter out of the city. I also didn't forget to tell Tiffany's ex-husband about Daniel's high salary and how generous he was with Tiffany. Now, I just had to sit back and watch the show. Half a year later, I unexpectedly received a call from the police. Daniel and Tiffany had gone missing. My heart swelled with indescribable joy, fearing only that it might be too good to be true. Could it be Tiffany's ex-husband's doing? A few days later, the police discovered an unidentified male body that had been dismembered. It was eventually confirmed to be Daniel. The suspects were identified as Tiffany and her ex-husband. Warrants were issued for their arrest. Less than 2 days later, they were apprehended. The news broke. It was due to a romantic conflict. As Daniel's only relative, I took my daughter to the police station to understand the situation. It turned out that after learning his wife had been stolen and Daniel was earning a lot of money, Tiffany's ex-husband returned. He used the crime of bigamy to threaten them, hoping to extort money. But the money he took wasn't to pay off his debts, but to continue gambling, piling debt upon debt. He even pointed directly at Daniel and Tiffany, saying, "Your wife is my wife too, after all. Isn't it only fair that she pays off my debts?" After repeating this many times, Daniel and Tiffany realized he was a bottomless pit and conspired to kill her ex-husband to eliminate the problem. They planned to murder him and dismember his body, intending to claim he went missing because creditors took him away. Unfortunately, their plan was discovered by him. Without hesitation, he acted first, killing Daniel. More cruelly, although he didn't hit Tiffany, he forced her to dismember her husband herself. If I can't live peacefully, then no one else should either. That was his way of revenge. Hearing this, a chill ran down my spine. How brutal. I wondered what sentences the two would receive. Tiffany was pregnant, so she certainly wouldn't be executed. But would her son, still in the hospital, live long enough for his mother to be released from prison? I smiled coldly. Karma is real, it just takes time. Stepping out of the police station, I saw my former mother-in-law crying hysterically at the gate. Daniel was dead, but he left an inheritance. My daughter and I received half of it. From now on, my daughter and I would live peaceful and prosperous days. I took a deep breath, cursing silently in my heart. What a wretched couple. In this life, they not only wanted to kick me out, but also wanted to extort money from me. I feigned panic. What? 500,000 is too much, I can't help. With that, I stood up, intending to leave. Tiffany immediately grabbed my arm. Olivia, please help me. The doctor said if we don't have the money by next week, the bone marrow will be given to someone else. I paused, not out of softness, but because an idea had sparked. They wanted to scheme against me. I would show them what hoist with your own petard meant. Seeing my hesitation, Tiffany continued to plead, and Daniel joined in, the two cooperating like a truly devoted couple. Daniel added, if you borrow the money, I'll pay off the debt with you. Once Leo recovers, Tiffany will work to pay you back. We had been married for so many years, and he had never been so generous to me. Indeed, the affection for a childhood sweetheart was different.